What is going on, YT? It is your boy Diego, but as always, you can call me Chancho or Chanch, whatever works for you. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about the story or not, but if you've been on the internet the last couple of days, chances are you've come across the lemonade from Panera that has unfortunately claimed 2 lives so far. And it's been all over the internet lately. It's a very sad and kind of a crazy story that a big chain like Panera would be tied with a lemonade that would cause 2 people to die. People are literally right now calling it the lemonade that kills people. Like, if you Google that right now, it's gonna take you to that Panera lemonade. And as is normally tradition on the internet, this social media age that we live in, it has become sort of a meme. People started memeing it, and while the memes, yeah, they tend to be funny, it's also important to recognize what it's based on. And what it's based on is not actually funny, is that 2 people unfortunately lost their lives because of this lemonade. And actually, because of the meme is how I came across the story to begin with. I hadn't heard about this until I came across a meme that I'm going to show on the screen right now, and it's from The Devil Wears Prada. So I guess this whole culture that we're used to is like dealing with the trauma in like a meme sort of way. That's kind of the generation that we live in right now. And after coming across this meme that I saw on Twitter, I was like, wait, what is going on? And that's what led me down to investigate what happened. And there's a lemonade that is at Panera, and it's called the Charged Lemonade. They have different flavors. It's supposed to be sort of an energy drink. Now, Ashley and I are pretty frequent Panera visitors. We tend to go a lot, and I used to see this lemonade there, and they just have them there in those like jugs that are like mixing the lemonade. And to the regular consumer like us that goes to Panera a lot, I wouldn't look at that jug and think automatically like, oh, this is some sort of like highly caffeinated drink. And I think that's what the root of the problem is that we're running into here. And this is probably a rant for another day, but why is it that sandwich shops are so expensive? In our like smooth brains, we think that if we go to Panera, we're gonna like eat healthier. But if you break down and look into the ingredients in Panera, it's not really that much healthier calorie-wise, fat-wise, than like just going out to eat anywhere else, basically. But in our brains, we wanted to convince ourselves that, hey, we're making the conscious, smart decision by going here and, you know, eating healthier or whatever. It's just the fact that you go there and you buy like 2 sandwiches, 2 chips, and like trans fat soup, and all of a sudden you spent like $50. We're gonna stay away from that lemonade though. I'm not really sure if they've taken it down yet or not as of recording, but let's go into the victims here. So the first person who unfortunately died from drinking the Charged Lemonade, her name was Sarah Katz, and she was only 21 years old. So she had a disorder called long QT type 1. I'm not sure what that is. So doctors, you know, if you want to leave down below what it means. What I do know is that it caused her to have abnormal heart rhythms, and she, throughout her life, tried her best to avoid highly caffeinated drinks or caffeine in general, so that it wouldn't cause, you know, some issues with her heart. So in September of 2022, last year, she, without knowing that this was a supercharged turbo caffeinated drink, she drank it and unfortunately suffered from a heart attack and ended up dying from that. And we're gonna compare how much caffeine there is in this drink to other drinks in a little bit, but let's go over Dennis Brown. He, from what I understand, had some sort of disability as well, and I believe he drank 3 of the Charged lemonades. And he also, again, he did have underlying health conditions, but this in no way excuses or just, you know, makes it less bad. I mean, he ended up dying from drinking this lemonade. So let's talk about caffeine a little bit. So I'm a dad. I'm a full-time engineer, full-time dad, full-time husband. Because of that, I need coffee in the morning. I really, really need my coffee. We're almost like trained to want need caffeine to like function, you know. But how much caffeine is too much caffeine? What's an unhealthy amount? It's recommended that you like max have 400 milligrams a day of caffeine. To the regular person, you wouldn't know. Like, I'm gonna put up a picture right now that shows, I think this was after Sarah Katz died, or after Sarah Katz passed away from drinking the lemonade. Panera, like, to cover up what happened, they tried to like make it a little bit more obvious that this was not just a regular lemonade, but they still kept them next to like the regular drinks. But they added like a little text on the bottom of the tanks that said like how much caffeine there was in there. If I were to go up to a nutrition label and something says that it has so and so amount of caffeine, I don't really know what that means, you know. They should really make it as obvious as possible. Hey, this has like an excess amount of caffeine in it. And I think the worst part was the fact that they kept it next to other drinks that wouldn't, cause you to think that it's super charged with caffeine. As expected, like big corporations, every time they like answered to these kind of controversies or like face some sort of scrutiny, they always release some sort of public statement that just makes it worse. And here's the statement released by Panera. Basically, they're not really taking accountability for it. Actually, quite the opposite. Not only are they not taking accountability for it, they're saying like, no, this is not related to our charged lemonade whatsoever, and people need to be more careful, and they said, we view this lawsuit, which was filed by the same law firm as a previous claim, to be equally without merit. And they told NBC News that it enhanced our existing caffeine disclosure on the website and app. That being said, that means that after the first lawsuit was filed, they were like, oh, let's try to make it a little bit more obvious. Again, it wasn't clear enough to be like distinguished differently than the other drinks that are not, basically energy drinks like Red Bull. And again, I'm gonna go over here in a little chart that shows you how much caffeine there is. So this chart goes over the amount of milligrams of caffeine per ounce when comparing the charged lemonade to other typical, drinks that you would associate with having like a lot of caffeine. Red Bull is actually on the lower side of this chart with that's actually kind of surprising because I would figure Red Bull would have a lot more. And Bang, I don't know what's up with Bang, but that is a scary amount of milligrams of caffeine per ounce. But here you can see that the Panera lemonade is, near the middle of this chart. But this changes when you start looking at how much, or like the serving size that people drink of the Panera lemonade. So a 30-ounce cup of this lemonade has 390 milligrams of caffeine. That is insane. You're only supposed to have 400 milligrams per day. So drinking one of these larges, I guess, the 30 ounce would probably be the large. That's already the amount of caffeine you're supposed to have for the whole day. So this second chart shows you that while the lemonade doesn't have the most milligrams of caffeine per ounce, when you take a large or a 30 ounce cup of this stuff, it's at the top of the top. So you can imagine, as Dennis, the second person who died after drinking this lemonade, he drank 3 of these. So that's just way above the 400 milligrams that you're supposed to have of caffeine per day. And I actually read this interesting article on this that basically said that in America, this is the way it tends to go. Why does it take people dying to have like some sort of like warning label, like, hey, you shouldn't, this has a lot of caffeine in it and it's really dangerous, especially for people who have underlying conditions and stuff like that. Why is it that it needs to resort or come down to somebody dying for them to be like, okay, let's do something? And they compared it to, for example, another country. So in the UK, if a drink has over 150 milligrams of caffeine in it, it already has a warning label on it that it has an excess amount of caffeine. And here in the US, caffeine isn't even regulated that much. They don't even care if something has like an insane amount of caffeine. It's not really regulated by the FDA, and that's because we don't want to think that the government is in charge and controls every little aspect of our lives. But when it comes to stuff like this, I think it's really important that it becomes as clear as possible that, hey, what you're about to consume here has an insane amount of caffeine and you need to be careful with it. And because that was not clear enough at Panera, unfortunately 2 people died from it. And who's to blame here? We'll see what the court says because of these lawsuits. It's not for us to decide, but all I'm trying to say here is Panera should have been way more obvious and not putting things that have a crazy amount of caffeine next to just regular drinks like that. Because if you go into a store and you see those jugs of lemonade, you're not going to think, oh, this is an energy drink with a crazy amount of caffeine in it, or this could be dangerous to me, because you're just thinking, oh, it's just some other wacky Panera style lemonade. The word charged to me wouldn't automatically trigger like something in my brain to think, hey, it's some sort of like energy drink. And if you look at the little text on the bottom looking at the amount of caffeine in it, that's not going to trigger something in my brain either, because to a regular person going into a restaurant, they're not going to know, hey, 300 and some milligrams of caffeine is a lot. I mean, maybe out there and you're like way more versed in this kind of stuff, but like to a typical person, that's not going to mean anything. It needs to say, hey, warning, this is dangerous, or this amount of caffeine can be dangerous, not just, oh, this amount of ounces has this many milligrams, because that doesn't really trigger anything in your brain. unless you're really you know that kind of stuff, or you know how much caffeine you're supposed to have a day. And it also doesn't help that they would offer like refills on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you'll go back, you'll finish your lemonade, and without thinking twice about it, you've already had a ton of caffeine for the day. I just wanted to hop on here really quick and talk about this story because, again, Ashley and I are frequent Panera visitors, and the fact that this happened at one of our like favorite restaurants or one of the places that we go to a lot was just so crazy to hear about that. Panera should have done better. That's all I'm gonna say. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.